I were to tell you that the part of the Torah that deals with interpersonal relationships was also given at Mount Sinai. And it's a part of Torah. It's written, the laws are written in Torah. You would say, well, of course. If you look at the Torah describes the laws of how, of damages, and as I said, interpersonal relationships. It would be seemingly obvious. Interestingly enough, though, this coming week's Parshas Mishpatim, which deals with these topics of people's damaging each other or it's not their property damaging each other, interpersonal relationships, the Torah makes a point to tell us, the way Rashi explains it, that these laws were given at Har Sinai. It is a part of Torah like any other part. And even though the Torah writes it specifically, the way Rashi derives it is because the parsha begins, Ve'elah HaMishpatim, and these are the laws. The letter Vav is a connecting letter. It connects what was going to be written now to what was written just previously. And just as the previous parsha was discussing Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, so Rashi says the Torah is teaching us that these laws now that we're going to be discussing were also given at Har Sinai. But why does the Torah have to tell us that? Isn't it obvious? I mean, if it's written in the Torah, where do you think it came from? Mount Everest? Where'd it come from? It's written in the Torah, it's obvious, it's right there. What lesson is the Torah giving us by telling us that the laws governing interpersonal relationships were given in Har Sinai? So let's talk about the difference, the fundamental difference between laws that are in society which govern how people live together and the Torah's view of interpersonal relationships. In general society, which is very important, there have to be laws governing how people live with each other, because otherwise there'll be mayhem, chaos. You have to have laws that will govern how people live with each other, because otherwise people just getting each other up, which is actually a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos in Ethics of the Fathers. They write, the Mishnah says that one should pray, should daven for the peace of the kingdom, peace of the country, because if people would not have certain awe or fear of any repercussions, people would swallow each other alive. Which we have seen in certain instances, even in this country. But the purpose of those laws is to ensure that society functions as a whole. In the Jewish perspective, there's that level as well, but there's a whole additional deeper level of understanding interpersonal relationships. And that's based on a chazal, which I'll quote the Hebrew terminology and then we'll translate. Mitzvos were given, litzaref es habrios, to purify people. Even the laws that govern interpersonal relationships are there for our benefit. It's to purify the person and to elevate and make more spiritual the person who keeps them. So besides for the aspect of ensuring that people live with each other peacefully, there's a whole additional layer, which is that mitzvahs, even in the parts that deal with our relationship with our fellow man, are there to elevate our behavior and make us more godly. Let me give you an example of this. Let's take charity. Charity. So, normally you would say that the point of charity, which is certainly noble and 100% correct, is that the person who is in need, his needs are being provided for. Very important, right? We want that even those who are less fortunate than ourselves should be able to not have to call it suffer or be able to have certain enjoyments in life, 100%. But that's not the only point. And I'll base myself on a Gemara in Baba Basra. The Gemara says there that one of the Roman like they would call them generals, asked Rabbi Akiva, if your God loves poor people, why doesn't he support them? God can take care of the poor people. He's got enough money. Trump comes close. Yeah. If he loves the poor people, why doesn't he support them? Good question. Rabbi Akiva answers that the reason is it's because for our benefit, the benefit of the giver. It's not just, the point of charity is not just to ensure that the people who are destitute are provided for. It's to make us into givers, and the way the Gemara says it, to save us from the din of Gehenna. But the idea is, it's not just to ensure, from this Gemara I think it's an example, it's not just to ensure proper functioning of society, but it's to elevate and to make the people who keep these interpersonal laws governing interpersonal relationships, to make us into more spiritual people. It's a very important understanding of mitzvahs in general. That the idea of any mitzvah that we do, any mitzvah, even one that seems mundane and governs, doesn't seem to have any aspect of spirituality, indeed was given to make us more spiritual. I'd like to conclude with a very interesting story. I had occasion this week, actually related to our interface with the non-Jewish world. I had occasion this week, I had to be in Manhattan. And I was with my father, and he's telling me something very fascinating. The 2nd Avenue subway, some of you may know, just recently opened in New York City. And the city of New York actually gave different artists an opportunity to paint certain murals on the subway stations. And there was one particular artist who was given, was awarded, so to say, a contract, with the right to paint a mural on a certain station. I think it was the 2nd Avenue, 69th Street. And he was told that what they was told to paint was a picture of all the different types of people in New York City, of which there are many. It's probably encompassing of all types. Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, Jews, everybody. Okay? This particular artist his accountant was an observant Jew. Happened to have been a relative of mine. And that's how my parents knew the story. Observant Jew. Actually, somewhat, not completely Hasidic. His name is Yosef, who just actually passed away. Yosef Berkowitz, the Zrona Levracha. He was an accountant. And he asked him, he said, Joseph, can I paint you and put your picture on the mural that I'm painting for the station? He said, okay, it's fine, because he was the observant Jew that he knew. And he said, but I'd like to see the picture beforehand. And I'd like to have a certain pose. So his pose was, he was wearing a sweater, tying a sweater, with a Jewish book with a sefer in his hand. And if you go into the station today, you would see a picture, the picture of the Jew. In that picture, amongst all the other groups that are in New York City, is the picture of this Mr. Joseph Berkowitz holding a sefer in his hand. I can think of no better apt description based on what he did for the group that we have right here. Because that really epitomizes us as a people. We will always and will always be the people of the book, always learning. That's how he wanted to be, and that's actually how he's remembered. We're always learning. That's our job, to always be learning and growing in our Jewish knowledge.